G'day, guys, and welcome to Comics to Movies and More. My name is Sean Keenan. I am the creator of Comics to Movies, and tonight we have a awesome Australian guest. We've got Darren Close, who is the mastermind behind Killaroo. He is a passionate Australian comics supporter, and he has a Kickstarter running at the moment that we are super excited to deep dive into. We're also talking Superman and some projects with Comics to Movies as well. So it's going to be a massive show. Welcome to everyone. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, click the bell and notify, and let's get our 14th episode up and running. So I'm going to bring on Darren and Stephen. G'day, guys. How are you going today?
Hey, everybody.
So, Stephen, what have you been up to lately?
Not much, actually. So it's been a bit quiet, but I've been really enjoying the new trailers that's been coming out, actually. There's been the Wonder Woman trailer dropped, the Suicide Squad, not quite the trailer, but, you know, the featurette, and the Snyder Cut dropped, and I'm missing one. Batman dropped as well. So it's been very exciting.
Did you see any of those, Darren? Any of the
trailers? I saw most of them except the Suicide Squad one. The Batman one looks really good, and I was already on board for Wonder Woman, but I'm even more so now. Like, that looks amazing.
Yeah. I was there was also the Suicide Kills the Justice League, which is a new video game that they've also looked at releasing, because I was looking at the YouTube image of that and I was like, oh, that doesn't look like Margot Robbie. That's like pretty shit makeup type of thing. And then realized it was a video game type of thing. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Looks pretty cool. It was the same people that created Arkham Asylum and that. So that also looks great. But I might start off controversial and say I actually really liked the Batman trailer. I liked the way Robert Pattinson looked. I liked his armor and the line "I am vengeance." I was like, that's cool, because I was expecting him to say "I am Batman." I was like, oh, he actually said something different. That is kind of cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it too. There's one particular shot where you see him pulling into the Batcave, and it looks like a cave, like unlike all the other Batmans we've seen where it's computers and it's all decked out and like it's very little like a cave. And this really gives you that that grassroots gritty feel of this is a Batman just starting out, and that's kind of cool.
Well, the one thing I did like is I don't like the Joker. I mean, not the Joker, sorry, the Riddler being a gimmick. This one, he actually seems like really nasty. Like, it seems like, you know, he's out. He's not there just to have a bit of fun and to, you know, throw a couple of cute riddles out. He's there to really cause some mayhem. So I think that's very exciting as well.
I thought the look of the Penguin and Colin Farrell as well, I was like, oh, how's he going to kind of fit into the Penguin role? But I really liked the look of the Penguin as well. It was like more of a looked like an overweight type of guy and a disfigured guy that looks like a penguin. So it's like, you know, that you know, bullying mentality type of thing, like the way someone looks, that they've then called him the Penguin rather than the gimmick, as you were saying, the gimmick of, like, you know, an actual penguin or anything. So I'm really intrigued to see where they go with this this movie, and whether it's going to be part of the bigger universe or whether it's going to be a standalone movie like the Joker, or if it intertwines with the Joker at some point. So
I think in terms of, especially with AT&T and the way AT&T is really going to that streaming service, like you see AT&T's focus is movies and streaming and TV shows and all the rest of it. I think they're going to make it really interesting because they're taking like the Batman's out of continuity, and I'm really interested to see how they merge. Because the thing is, Marvel's done such a good job with what they've done. DC is just playing catch up, and if they have the full focus on it, it'll be really interesting to see creatively where that goes.
Yeah, no, I think releasing the Snyder Cut with Justice League, I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to reboot the universe without having to go through every single character and reboot the universe. So I'm intrigued to see how different that film is from Joss Whedon's version, because the trailer that they showed, I thought that was like considerably different to what was released and everything. So, did you agree, Darren? Or
yeah, well, I feel like the Flash movie, although they haven't started filming that, as far as I know, I think they're really going to use that to kind of establish there's a multiverse, and we can have separate Jokers and separate Batmans and everything. All that doesn't have to everything doesn't have to connect like all the Marvel films do. We can do different versions and they'll sit together nicely in multiverse. So I feel like that's probably the movie that will kind of establish how DC films goes forward from that point on.
yeah, so that's, I guess, a little bit like what they did with X-Men Days of Future Past, where they kind of rebooted the series, but then paid homage to the other characters that had played the series, played in the movies previously, and everything. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how the Flash, and if it's that Flash paradox type of storyline, how that revolves around the multiverse and everything. So, I did was not a huge fan of the Arrow crossover, but the homages that they played in that event, I thought was quite cool. With I was a big fan of Smallville, so to have Tom Welling show up and everything like that, I thought that was quite clever and quite smart. And if they're able to do that in a cinematic universe, like, wow, that would I think appease a lot of people, and then let them move forward from there.
Yeah.
Just for the Suicide Squad one, and I'm really excited for James Gunn to take the helm for this one. So I'm really just because of his Guardians of the Galaxy credentials and the way he can work with an ensemble. And before Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they were all D-lister Marvel characters. You know what I mean? No, like the average guy down the road would not have heard of any of them. And if you look at the Suicide Squad, the featurette, they're really picking at really, really obscure ones as well. Polka Dot Man, and I'm surprised Condiment King isn't there. It's like they're really picking
the one that I think I'm looking forward to is The Thinker by Peter Capaldi, with like the little metal things coming out of his head.
He's Doctor Who, isn't he, as well?
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering whether the only thing I'm a little nervous about is if they do take that Joker type role where Harley Quinn makes jokes and quibs and everything. I don't want it to be another Guardians of the Galaxy. I want it to be its own movie, and that is my only worry with the film. So I hope he does do something different. And that featurette said that this is nothing that's been done before. It's quite a different storytelling aspect from a superhero point of view. So I really hope that is the case, and it's not just a DC version of Guardians of the Galaxy. So the trailer was more introducing all the different characters rather than an actual trailer of what the movie was going to look like. And I'm guessing that's probably because of shooting delays and everything. So yeah.
Anyway, this is a good segue. Darren's picked the 1978 film Superman. I know it's a little bit. Look, I've seen it, but this is probably a movie that's really close to your heart. Darren, what do you love about the movie?
Well, I think I must have seen it first when I was like 5 years old or something like that, and it just it's probably the first superhero movie that I'd ever seen, and I don't know, I think there is a part of it that you probably needed to be of that generation to appreciate it. I think younger people now watching it will just go, "Oh, that looks so fake," and that you can see the
cables,
and so forth. But no, I just this is basically my Superman. I always the way that he embodied the character, how he was confident but not arrogant, and a genuine sense of empathy for humans and wanting to help people. And it's one of the things that I found so hard to watch in that Man of Steel film when Zod and Superman are fighting in that one. Like they just trash Metropolis, and they don't seem to really care about how many people dying at the same time. But if you look at Superman 2, which was filmed at the same time as this film, like Superman is just totally trying to save people. Like that's all he cares about, and it obviously becomes such a weakness for him that the Phantom Zone villains take advantage of. But there's this film. It's almost three films in one. Like the first part of the film, it's all on Krypton, so we really get a sense of what Kryptonians are like, and his father, and how Krypton was doomed and sending his kid off before it blows up. You establish the Phantom Zone villains. You got a real sense of this sort of old school, I guess, sort of like old Rome, like before the corruption of Rome, sort of thing. And then you get to Kansas, and we really spend a fair amount of time there, just looking at how he grows up, how he deals with his powers and having to hold them back, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then when you get to Metropolis, it's like full on comic book stuff.
Yep.
So it's like three films in one, but I feel that you need that grounding at the start, because when you finally see him in the suit, it's like about an hour into the film, and it's sort of like a reward. It's sort of like, yep, we've got all to this point and it's earned, and off he goes. And yeah, it's just, there's a sense of magic to this film that I don't see in a lot of modern films. But
I didn't actually realize that Superman 2 was filmed at the same time.
Yeah, most of Superman 2 was filmed by Richard Donner, and it was basically at the same time, doing some shots from 2, some shots from 1, and it started going right over budget. So they basically at one point said, okay, let's stop the Superman 2 stuff, and we'll just put the first film together, put it out, and see how it goes, and then we'll finish it later. And they did that, and it was a huge hit. And then they actually kicked Richard Donner off the project, and they got another director to come in and finish it.
See, I enjoyed, and I did go back and watch the original Superman this week, and this the joys of letting our guests pick movies type of thing. I can go back and watch ones that they've picked, but I am a big fan of Superman 2. I think, the other Kryptonians coming out of the Phantom Zone, that resonated a lot with me as a kid, but the build up of Superman in this, what you touched on, Darren, it's rewatching it and coming from a storyteller's point of view, that 3-story arc, and you've talked about this as well, Stephen, is so well done in this film. That build up of his culture and the culture that he's losing compared to what he is actually brought up with, and that clash of what you missed out on, what you don't know. And if anyone has had step parents, or been adopted or whatever, there's always that part where you're like, well, where do I get that from? Because I know I don't get that from this parent. Where does that come from? And not knowing and not being able to touch on that and ask questions and identify, I thought was really well done in this movie. And then getting onto the action and coming into Superman as we know him is really well done as well. And that empathy and everything, I think, comes across so well because Christopher Reeves was like that. I feel like that's what he was like as a person. So I can't really imagine anyone else playing Superman at that time. Like, there's a lot of good actors around in the 70s and 80s, but I can't even think of another actor that I would have put in his place in this film. So,
well, I think one of the other things. Sorry, Stephen.
Go.
One of the other things that appeals to me so much about this film is Superman enjoys being Superman. Like there's a joy that he has in learning to fly and helping people, and like he's just happy doing it, which I feel like there's one scene in Man of Steel when he's learning to fly and he's sort of enjoying, oh shit, I'm flying. And there's a real moment there where he has joy and happiness in what he can do and how he can do things. And then it's just morose excuse the expression, but he's just a miserable bastard for the rest, and all through BVS, Batman v Superman, like he's miserable, and I'm like, that's not Superman. In fact, the only thing that I liked, I guess, about the Justice League that we've already seen is towards the end, Henry Cavill starts cracking jokes, and he's laughing with Cyborg after they've won, and then he has a race with the Flash. And I mean, these are things that Joss Whedon brought to the table, but it's like there's a Superman that's actually having fun, that's enjoying being Superman, and that's something that I missed a lot.
Who doesn't want to be Superman? Seriously.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be fun?
No, I think the one unforgivable part of Man of Steel, and it's not snapping Zod's neck. I that one I can deal with. It was the Jonathan Kent character.
Yeah.
The way he was, that was the absolute unforgivable part of Man of Steel. To have Jonathan Kent say, and look, I'm going to paraphrase exactly what was said because I can't remember the exact line, but basically saying, you know what, you should have let those kids die on the school bus rather than save them.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning when Clark almost exposed himself, and then Jonathan Kent was unhappy with him, say, hey, look, if you got found out something, what should I have done? Should I let those kids die? Yes, maybe you should have. That's unforgivable, and absolutely unforgivable. And the point about when he gets stuck in that I think cyclone or tornado, I can't remember which is which.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to save my dad. I'm going to say, oh no, son, just let me die because it's better that you keep your powers hidden. That was
seriously, you travel faster than a speeding bullet. No one's even going to notice what you're doing anyway. So
yeah,
and part of what worked in the first film is that, like, he even repeats it throughout the film, is all these things I can do, all these powers, and I couldn't save my dad from his heart attack. Like I can, bend steel, I can go really fast, but there's some things I can't save them all.
Yep.
And
it gives him the empathy that gives Christopher, but in the other one, it's like, I could have saved my dad, but he told me not to. That's why he's dead.
And that's the difference between that power of the story. Is that, as you're saying, Stephen, like, your power of your story is like, I didn't save my dad because he told me not to, compared to, I have everything. I have all these powers. I am a Superman, and I'm literally powerless when it came to saving my dad, and type of thing. And that could have been, that could have been updated to have his dad die of cancer in this movie or something, and that whole inability to be fit, strong, healthy, and then sit there and watch your father waste away, or something like that. I think it was, I would go as far as saying it was lazy writing. It was the easy way out. I kind of feel so.
Well, it's also not easy because, for everyone who remembers the Superman, the original Christopher Reeve films, that's burned into their head. And if you're tasked with writing a new Superman, like, you don't want to just repeat what people have seen before. You've got to come up with some way of making it a bit different. I sort of applaud them trying some new things, but some of them were just never going to work. And I feel like it's sort of like, well, we made it different because we had to, or we had to make it dark and gritty. And I'm like, it's Superman. Batman is well suited to being dark and gritty, but Superman shouldn't be.
I think they did that well with Spider-Man in regards to removing Uncle Ben and replacing Tony Stark as that's kind of father figure and that mentor and everything, and it fit quite well because they're both very smart, and they tied that in quite well. So I think there could have been maybe better ways to do what they did. They could have flipped it over and had his mum pass away rather than his dad. Like, I think there could have there could have been other ways to do a similar thing without going down the avenue that they did. I do know this is Stephen's bugbear. He has mentioned this a couple of times on this channel. So
no, because I love Jonathan Kent as the character, because if you do the analysis on Superman, he was Clark Kent's moral compass, without a doubt. He was always the moral compass. And removing, and look, the thing is, you could have replaced it with his mom. Even his mom, Martha Kent, even the line she used also, I think, is a cardinal sin. Save them, don't save them. You owe them nothing. It's like, really? This is the greatest superhero in the DC universe. Don't save them. I don't really care. I'm not going to yell at you if you don't save them. It's not that she should say you can't save them all. You can try. You can use all these different type of words, but the line was, again, I'm going to butcher the line. It was something like, save them or don't save them. I don't care. That was basically what she was saying.
You owe them nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a horrible, horrible line to put in for a Superman movie. It's a horrible, horrible line. And you just think, if that's how he was raised, God, why is he saving people?
Yeah.
If your parents are telling you to hide your powers, save them, I don't really care. No skin on my nose. Why the hell what's the drive? There is no drive. It's like, I just feel like it today. I don't feel like it tomorrow.
It could have been a Russian Superman almost.
There is a Russian Superman as well, but that's a totally different topic.
We've got a question here for you, Darren. Who was a better Superman, Henry Cavill or Christopher Reeve?
It's definitely Christopher Reeve for me, but as I said before, I don't, and as we've discussed in how these films were written that Henry Cavill had to work with, I think what I've seen of Henry Cavill as Superman, I think he can be a great Superman, but I don't know that the scripts have necessarily allowed him to be so far. I'm hoping that will change in future films, because I really quite like Henry Cavill, but as far as embodying everything about the character that I loved in the comics, like it's Christopher Reeve by a country mile, really.
I think I agree as well. I think Henry Cavill has the perfect look, type of thing. If you're wanting someone to look very similar to Christopher Reeve, I think Henry Cavill is a very good updated option type of thing. Like I love Brandon Roth or Ruth,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just was not a fan of his look
But
as Superman.
Again, I feel that also came down to the writing of the film. That's a very, very strange film, Superman Returns. It's very clearly trying to follow the Richard Donner films, but it's just like they write him as like a stalker of Lois Lane and stuff. It's just there's just I think he did the best he could with what he had to work with, and unfortunately, we really only got one film to try and show that. And it was nice seeing him in that crossover you were talking about with the Flash and Arrow and stuff.
Yeah,
but
as the Kingdom Come, Superman was good.
Yeah, and I do think if you're going to do Superman again, then Cavill was definitely a good option. I just wish he had better dialogue and better writing to work with, and I'm hoping that we see that in the future films. In fact, at the end of the Justice League, as he returns to fight Steppenwolf, I think it was, you can see that his suit is actually a lot brighter than it was. Like Man of Steel, it's really dark blue, dark reds, and there's moments in Justice League where you actually get some nice vibrant reds and blues and yellows, and it's sort of like, this is. It took 3 movies and the end of a pretty ordinary movie to get to the Superman that I wanted to see, and now I just want him to make more movies with that guy. So
I think, unfortunately, until like we mentioned, with AT&T and Warner Brothers Media, I think it'll be really interesting to see the direction they'll take. I think they're not planning that far ahead now. They're not doing. They got really burnt trying to plot it all out, especially with some of the movies not doing very well. So I think it'll be interesting to see how DC plays it. I think they're doing it film by film now, by the looks of it. They're not
I think
saying
you're probably right.
This isn't phase 3. This isn't phase 4. This isn't going to link to this. It's not. It's here's Suicide Squad. Here's the Batman.
Yeah, see if this works.
Yeah. So,
and I think that was a good thing that Marvel did as well. Yes, they had the phase and the slates and everything like that, but I think fundamentally they tried to make a very good film in itself, and then added little bits and pieces along the way to say, okay, if this does do well, we've given enough hints to make something else. Where I think DC was like, because they came to the game late in regards to the cinematic universe, they went, oh, we can do this. So they had this plan, and then because they kind of stumbled on the first couple, then that whole plan came crashing down quite quickly.
I really think you've nailed it there, because in the Marvel films, when we get to Avengers, we've earned it. Like, we've had an Iron Man film, we've had a Captain America film, we've had a Thor film. I think there was a second Iron Man film as well.
Second Iron Man,
and the Ed Norton Hulk.
The Hulk.
Yep.
So we get all of those, and that's sort of like, okay, now we've earned the ability to put them all together and tell a story. And because we've seen how they act individually, now we get to see how they respond to one another and so forth. And I think Avengers made, like, was it the first Marvel film to hit like $1 billion or something? And I think DC hadn't even done Man of Steel yet, and they just said, we want that Avengers money. Let's go straight to Justice League. How do we do that? All right, we'll do a Man of Steel film, and then we'll do Batman versus Superman, which will have Wonder Woman in it as well, and we'll throw in the death of Superman as well. And then they go, and then we'll get to Justice League. So it's not earned.
Yeah.
And that was that's how Marvel has continued to build, because they've really, as you mentioned, we're trying to make a great film here, and we're putting enough little threads in it that we can look at developing further in other films if it goes well. And then when it starts rolling and really starting to hit their groove, and you've got like Avi Arad sort of overseeing all of it at the same time, like, it was just the way to do it. And I think Warner Brothers just wanted to get there fast, and they fell on their face doing it.
Yeah, look, and
we
I
haven't.
think,
We haven't even touched on Aquaman, but that was a goddamn mess. That film.
but that's a $1 billion film though.
See, I love that. That out of all the DC films, Aquaman and Shazam,
I loved
I
Shazam.
really liked.
Shazam was fantastic. I
Yeah.
really loved Shazam, but
I enjoyed
Aquaman.
Yeah, let me know what did you not like about Aquaman? Just
Well,
quickly. I'm interested now.
It goes for about 4 hours, and it just feels like they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, into it. Like we've got,
Find the MacGuffin.
there's just so many different things going on, and I quite like. He makes a good Aquaman. I'll give you that, but the rest of it, the first time I watched it, I think it was just on streaming, and my flatmate and I were just watching it. We're like, oh, how much is to go? And it was halfway through. And we were just like, oh God, there's another hour and a half of this. It felt all over the place. And
See, Aquaman was one of the
it was
only
fun.
movies
I'll
I've
give
been
you
able
that.
to convince my wife to go see at the cinemas, and she actually really enjoyed it
Okay.
as well. So, which was quite interesting. But to see it on the big screen and all the different colors and underwater and all that, that was quite spectacular and quite unbelievable. And there's not a lot of films that I would say that about, but it's like Avatar. If you ever didn't see that on the big screen, you did not get the full experience of that film. There are just some films that, yes, they're great, and our TVs have gotten bigger over time, but seeing some of these films on a massive screen with that surround sound and everything, there's actually nothing kind of like that. And I do feel that Aquaman was one of those things, and the way they did Black Manta I thought was phenomenal in regards to actually giving him the suit and how he got the powers and stuff like that was really cool as well. But we did digress. We're speaking about Superman, so
Actually, that's probably an interesting segue. We are at the half-hour mark, so and there is a reason Darren's here as well. Is Darren is running a very, very successful Kickstarter. If you can bring the page up, Darren.
Yep.
My first question to you about it is: how did you and Stuart get to collaborate on this one? Is there an interesting story behind that, or was it like what Sean said? He bought you a beer and that was it.
Hey, that was in the green room, mate. You shouldn't have brought that on air.
Well, it's probably not that far from the truth. Like, because there's like the Melbourne comic meet down here in Melbourne, where we used to before all the pandemic stuff. And Stuart's a regular at those, and I'd seen his books, and I really quite like his art style, and yeah, I guess he liked the Killaroo books as well, and it just seemed like I've wanted to do Killaroo crossovers for a while. I mean, at one point, I was talking to you, Sean, about seeing how we could fit him into the XCT world, and like I enjoy the collaborative process quite a lot, and yeah, I think he just gave me a few sketches that he had drawn of Killaroo, and I might have inked them, and I just looked at it and I was sort of like, I really quite like how our styles kind of meld together, and it kind of just went from there. And to be honest, like I actually hadn't read it until he'd finished it.
Okay.
There was no real script. He just sort of had an idea in his head and went ahead and basically drew. It just kept ballooning out. Like it was going to be 48 pages, and it was 60 pages, and then he ended up being, I think it's nearly 74 pages now.
Wow.
So
once you add in the copyright page, the bits and pieces, you're going to cross.
Yeah, it's not going to be hard to fill, and that was one of the reasons that we considered doing the sketchbook, which unlocks at the 12 grand mark, because we wanted to have like a big section in the back of the book that had sketches and comparisons of pencils and inks, so people could see how different our styles are and how they work together. But we couldn't go over that 80-page mark because that's what we'd sort of budgeted for, which meant that the sketchbook would really only be like 2 or 3 pages in the back of the book. So yeah, as the Kickstarter went far and above our expectations, we really only expected to make the money to print it. And we just thought, well, why don't we just make a whole separate sketchbook? So that's kind of what's likely to happen at this point. We're not there yet, but I'm fairly confident we'll get there by the end. We've still got another 7 days to go.
So if people don't know, like what Killaroo is, like I know what Killaroo is because I go all the comic conventions here in Australia. You've been within the industry here for, is it over 20 years in regards
it's about
to comic?
20 years.
Yeah, comic industry here in Australia. So for all those listening and for all those people that are watching this back, and that we do have a few people in the United Kingdom and the US that watch, can you give us a little bit of a background on Killaroo, and then I'll ask you to talk a little bit about Stuart's the Four Horsemen as well, and then we'll go through the Kickstarter page.
Okay, sure. Yeah, basically, Killaroo is sort of a military experiment. He was sort of born in a lab, and he was designed to be like the ultimate soldier for Australian conditions.
That was surely the drop bear. Come on, not a kangaroo.
Sorry?
That would surely be the drop bear, not the kangaroo. I'm sorry. I take it back. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm walking away.
I'm putting you in timeout, Stephen.
But yeah, it was just the idea of like a hybrid human kangaroo, and I think that probably came from my mum used to look after orphan wildlife, so I actually grew up around little kangaroos and koalas and possums and stuff like that. So I've always kind of had an affinity for animals, and yeah, just I guess at the start I just wanted a very iconic Australian superhero kind of character, and I just thought, well, what's more Aussie than a kangaroo? So it just sort of came from that. And the first book, Killaroo Scars, is included in the base PDF bundle in the Kickstarter. So if anyone jumps on board, they'll be able to read that and see the origin of the character. And I've probably made about 10 or 15, I think it's about 12 comic books since with that character, with collaborating with other artists and writers. And yeah, it's kind of hard to summarize 20 years worth of stuff. But
so that's what I was going to say. When was the first Killaroo thing printed? Was that pre-2000 or?
It was actually 2001.
Wow.
Is when I published the first book, Killaroo Book 1. But before that, 6 years before that, in 1995 is when I actually created him. But it was only ever meant to be a sort of a one-page gag comic for a university magazine, and it never really went further than that. But as I sort of after I built the Oz Comics website, which had like pre-Facebook, was like a community forums, and I got to meet a lot more people around Australia that were interested in making comic books. And I basically used those contacts and said, okay, how would you do this looking character? And ended up publishing a number of short stories that just feature a kangaroo looking guy. Which was kind of a mistake to a degree because I didn't control like the there was no definitive character, so there was a whole bunch of kangaroo looking characters, but they didn't really relate to one another. It was sort of like I gave too much control to the artist and the writer on how they'd come up with it, and in around 2010 when I did Scars, I basically said, okay, this is the reboot, and this is how the character will act from this point forward. So they're kind of fun books, but I kind of consider them like Elseworlds tales. They're not really canon to the character that I tell stories about now.
That's cool. That's cool.
Just in this this particular Kickstarter though,
Yeah.
What was? Did you get much? I know you mentioned Stuart did the bulk of the storytelling here, but did you have much to tell in the story as well? Were you bouncing ideas back and forth here, or was it?
Yeah. He'd sort of show me pages as they went along, and he'd sort of ask me, well, how would Killaroo act in this situation? And I'd give him feedback on that. So there's a collaborative process there. I didn't get to really see exactly how the story was going to go, but I was able to give input and a few comments here and there on he would probably act this way, which would then give some directions to Stuart on how he would approach the next page, kind of thing.
Okay.
It's an unconventional way to do a crossover, but it's kind of worked out. So
I think that's the cool thing with doing crossovers and collaborating is there's no just one way to do something. Like I've done an anthology and you get a lot of different ideas. The more people you work with, the more things go back and forth and change and all that type of stuff. So that's a really cool and interesting process to kind of do a crossover. So so we know a little bit about Killaroo. So the Four Horsemen, what's their kind of backstory to do with this Kickstarter?
Well, they've kind of spun out of another book that Stuart was doing called The Four Horse Femmes, which is an all-girl kind of group. And they're kind of like government agent kind of stuff. And the Four Horsemen, which was originally just called Plan B, was sort of like a spin-off from that book. And it's basically a bunch of like a motley crew. It's almost like a Suicide Squad kind of group of characters. Like they don't all get along. Stuart could probably describe them a lot better, but yeah, it's just they're kind of a bunch of idiots, and
Nice.
Stuart describes them as such, and sort of just doing government work, and one of their missions happens to bring them on a collision course with something that Rufus is doing.
So, look, the campaign's ending in 7 days, so I'll do a little bit of a plug for you guys. If you haven't already checked it out, I've dropped the link. Sean's also dropped the link out straight after me. It looks like you just picked up a new backer as well. So there you go. Look, definitely do check it out. It's definitely worth checking. It's Killaroo's been around Australia 20-something years now. Yes. And it's definitely helping Australian creators as well. As you probably can imagine, the industry is pretty small, and it is really good to actually be able to create stuff. And it's basically with everybody's support that it becomes possible. Like, I know for a fact Darren doesn't do this for the money. He does it for the love.
No.
and
if you make comics in Australia, you're a moron. if you're doing them to make money, you're a moron. Because it's much easier to just flush your money down the toilet.
Yeah. So he's doing it for the love. And look, let's scroll down. Let's look at more of the art, and let's just run through a couple more things. The other thing would be is look. I think that was one of the questions from the chat. Your campaign's going to end in about 7 days. What's your next steps after? It's a really, really successful campaign, as you probably can see. What's your next step after this? Are you planning to go into distribution formally? Are you Indiegogo? Or are you planning to kickstart again? What's your ideas behind all this? What's your next steps?
Yeah, well, as you've seen, it's sort of gone way above the original.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Sassy Gal. Thank you. As you can see, like we've exceeded our target by quite a bit. And one of my intentions, I think the original goal was only to make about 200 copies of the book, but I'm really proud of how this book has come along. So a lot of the money that I'm making from this campaign is going to go into printing a whole bunch more copies, probably maybe around 500 copies, because I would like to be selling this book for the next 5-10 years. Because
I was going to say, mate, with 189 backers, you're definitely going to need to print more than 200. So.
Yeah, well, we've got 3 different covers too. So
yep. And I'll get down to here we go.
Yeah, so people can choose which cover they want. Some have ordered 2 of them, some have ordered all 3, and there's no chase variant, if you like. They can pick, anyone who jumps on for $20 can pick whichever cover they want, and that's what they'll get.
Look, and I'll question back to the 2 of you. Look, it's there is a homage. Sorry, I'm going to butcher it again. We all know where the X-Men cover came from. Don't quote me.
268.
268. Come on, Uncanny X-Men.
Both of you have used this particular issue as thing. What's the appeal? Look, I like it, but what's the appeal of that particular pose?
Well, I think it's particularly good if you've got more than one character in your book. You know, if it's you see a lot of homages to McFarlane with like Spider-Man 300 or Spider-Man #1.
Yep.
But that's because the book is really only about one particular character. So if you want to have more than one character on the cover, I think one of the go-tos is probably to the X-Men, which is a team of characters anyway. And then once you do that, like the iconic name that comes with the X-Men is Jim Lee. So, but there's something about that particular cover that's always grabbed me, and I think it comes back to, like, I bought that issue off the stand in about 1990, and back then it was rare to have characters crossover. So like having Captain America and Black Widow in an X-Men comic, like that was a big thing. That was a big deal. That wouldn't happen all that often. And you compare it to now, and like Harley Quinn is a popular character, so she's in every book for this month. You know, it might be 50 books. They've all got Harley in them. And it's just like there's something about that era back then where like crossovers and everything weren't all that common. So and it was a case of, you know, Jim Lee was such a popular artist and people loved seeing his interpretation of other characters, but to see his Captain America and his Black Widow as well, but mainly that double page splash of Captain America leaping towards the reader with his shield in his hand. It's just there's something special about those old Marvel books. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity to. I haven't really done any homage covers before, and I thought, well, this kind of works well. Like Rufus is the kind of posture that Wolverine would have, and the Bulk character's an arrogant prick, so he's going to sort of stand tall with his chest out. And you know, the Alira character fits perfectly into the Black Widow spot. So yeah.
What about yourself, Sean? I know you've used this cover as well. So what was the appeal from?
Well, I think for me, and I've spoken about this a couple of times, that it wasn't until much later in life that I realised that I was a visual learner, and there's been certain covers that just seem to have stuck with me, whether it be a comic cover, a movie poster, or something like that just seems to resonate with me. So, I always talk about X-Men being, and Gambit being my favorite character. So that reboot of the X-Men in 1990 by Jim Lee, I do have a signed lithograph print signed by Jim Lee, Chris Claremont, and Stan Lee up in my home. It is one of the iconic images of the 4 different covers with Magneto and all that on it. this Uncanny X-Men cover was one that always stood out for me, and I think I mentioned this early on in our one of our live streams was Wolverine 88, which is the Deadpool one where it's just a blue and red and black cover, and it's literally Wolverine hung over the top of Deadpool's swords in an X, and it's just like this image that always has kind of stuck with me. So, when I was doing our homage cover for San Diego Comic-Con, I did go to Jerry and mention maybe doing a Walking Dead, and even though I couldn't see him, I could feel the roll of the eyes and the, oh my god, everyone has done that homage cover. Can we do something different? And I was like, well, this is something that I would really like, but is it, does it interest you in drawing that? And he was like, this is one of my favorite comics, blah blah blah, and we kind of agreed on that, to do that as the homage cover type of thing. So for me it's a bit of nostalgia, but also just certain images that have kind of stuck through me through my life, and that, and I can't necessarily tell you why or how come, but there's just certain things that I can just rattle off and tell you about certain posters and stuff. Like The Last Starfighter is one of a post that I really enjoyed, and I can pretty much tell you about all of the different parts in that poster. Toy Soldiers with Sean Austin is another one. I can't really tell you why, but there's just certain things that have always kind of stuck with me. And if you don't do this for money, sometimes you got to do it for what you love and enjoyment. And sometimes you get to do something that you want to do just for the sake of you doing it. And that's why I used that cover. So.
Yeah. There's also something really incredible I want to tell about this campaign, just in terms of the stretch goals. So I was an early backer as well, and I'm actually really, really excited because if we scroll on the end, because they've crossed through all the stretch goals, you get, it is, I would say, in terms of a reward pledge, it is one of the most, oh my God, look at all the stuff I'm getting. So if we scroll down,
I'm scrolling. Here we go.
Here we go.
So 3.
So what? I backed for a physical copy, and I'm counting the stuff I'm getting already. I'm getting a sticker. I'm getting.
So hang on before you jump on that. So for this is as little as $20, guys.
Yep.
So this is the bottom reward. This is what you are getting. Go, Stephen.
Oh no! Do you want me to tell it, or would you?
Go.
Okay, great. Look. By the way, I'm an early bird, so I'm hoping I still qualify for all these things.
Yep, you do.
Okay, so you get the sticker, you get a fridge magnet, you get X-Men trading cards, X-Men style trading cards. You get a pin. What else do you get? Killer Roo pin. You get you got an A6 sketch as well that you guys are going absolute crazy on, aren't you?
That was the 10 grand level, yeah.
Yeah, an A6 original sketch. You get a postcard. You get a digital PDF as well. So even if you don't get the book, let's say forget the book, your stretch goal rewards already. It's incredible. For $20.
And you go forward to, if we hit 12, then you get a whole extra book on top of that.
Yeah.
So you get like
everybody loves the
sketchbook.
Not safe for work book. I've been looking at some of these images that you've been posting up, and Stuart's been posting up, and I'm like, come on, guys, we need to get to this 12K mark, because everyone likes a little bit of something naughty in their life, and I think this
a little bit of cheese.
Kind of a cool. And I do know that Darren, you did play a little bit of tongue in cheek at the start of this campaign and say, how good is it to have a campaign without a nude girl on the cover? Then your final stretch goal is this one. I'm like, that is gold. I'm like, that is gold.
Yeah, I'm a hypocrite.
No, but I love the idea that you're saying we can make this book and we can be successful without this, but also understand that we have people that are like different things, and to not do something for a market that's definitely there is, just doesn't really make business sense. So I really love how you've done that. I really loved watching your posts and how you've kept people engaged with this campaign. I do check it every couple of days to kind of have a look at how it's going. So look, guys, if you haven't already, jump on and have a look at the site. As Stephen said, there's a bunch of rewards that you'll get as little as $20, but there's some amazing rewards there that you can get in regards to the full collection of absolutely everything. And Stuart, we haven't talked much about Stuart, but he's a workhorse. He has so many books out, and this really doesn't give you justice, because Darren's books are almost graphic novels in themselves. So when they say it's an extra comic, is really like almost the size of a graphic novel. So these type of deals, I think is phenomenal, and cannot speak more highly of the work that you've done on this. And if people don't know, this is your first Kickstarter that you've run as well on top of all this. So to hit 5 figures straight away is pretty phenomenal.
Cheers. I can also tell you that you can see that it's my first Kickstarter because of how many stretch goal options I now have to make for the base level. So if you want to buy more than the $20 level, that'd be great.
Sorry.
But I mean, that's something you've probably all experienced, that when you do a Kickstarter, you really want to keep it going and give people stretch goals and things to aim for. And sometimes you go a bit overboard, and we kind of have here. Like, we're not going to lose any money out of this. Like, we're still going to be doing all right. But we're making a fair bit of extra stuff. So I think you'd struggle to find a Kickstarter with better value for $20.
Oh, look, I don't think you can. Look, so this is probably a nice wrap-up point. And so, look, if anybody who hasn't seen the Kickstarter yet, the links are in there. The links will be in the description as well. Please do check it out. Thank you, Sassy Girl, for pledging as well.
Thank you very much.
Every backer counts, and so it's always really good for any creator to see a backer come through. And look, and the thing is, we know it's a tough time now for everybody as well. So the other thing would be, if you can share the link around. Look, it's always good. It's always good to help spread the word, because as soon as you spread the word, hopefully somebody who's interested in this, you may not be able to pledge at this point, and no harm, no foul, but maybe somebody who is interested can see, hey, look, that's a nice looking project. I'll chuck something into it as well. So Darren or Sean, you want to close it?
I'll just had one last question. When did you look at fulfilling this? Is the book already complete, or is there still more to do? Or
there's a few little things, like one of the reward levels. There's quite a few cameos that are going to be drawn into this book. And we've locked all of those down, and most of those people have already sent us the photos. And Stuart had basically drawn the whole book, but he'd left blank faces where we were going to put cameos. So we're in the process of doing that. But apart from that, the book is pretty much done. And based on, it looks like we'll probably get to the sketchbook, that 12K level. I've already started laying that out as well. So basically by mid next month, when the all the transaction fees and everything's been sorted out, we'll be ready to send it straight to the printer. So we're looking at
amazing.
We're looking at probably people are going to start getting their books in August, September, October. No, and I think the start of November at the absolute latest. And we've also I've set up a partnership with Kablam. So several copies for the US orders will be printed in America and shipped directly there. So that saves us a bit of time as well. And on top of that, Kablam will do the fulfillment. So I have to send them the stretch goal items, and then they'll print the book and include those goodies with those shipments. So everyone's going to get the stretch goal stuff.
Awesome. That's
so
amazing.
Look, thank you everybody from the chat as per always. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Darren. And we'll check you guys next week. Sean, you want to close off?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming on, Darren. I really appreciate you taking the time. If people don't know, Darren does all of the letters for XCT as well. So he's been hard at work on top of running this Kickstarter, doing all the letters for XCT Fractured Worlds, which is now completed. We are in the final stages of production, and we are going to print in the next week or so. So we will send out a update on that, as well as next week we have a very cool Comics to Movies show. It's all going to be about our new series, Talos of Sparta. We're going to have Brad Van Geest on, who is the artist and my co-creator on that series. So tune in. We will be doing the cover release on that show, and we'll also be doing a bunch of other stuff and a couple of giveaways as well. So thanks again, Darren. Thank you for everyone for watching this, whether it's now or in a replay. And again, thank you for supporting the indie comic community. Have a great night, guys.
Cheers, Sean.